All right, after a day of some other stuff, we're back to this Model M, and here's where it was after, just a reminder where the tone was and things, after doing some regulation and some hardening of the hammer, some voicing. So nice sound. I was noticing on this piano, I'll show you, that the hammer shape was a little. If we look through here, hammer shape, I'm seeing some cupping. Okay, in the hammers right on top. You see, it's kind of like scooped. The edges are higher than the middle. And I checked to kind of see if that was mating they'd done, and maybe that's possible somewhat, but the shape of these hammers is a little clumsy, and I wanted to refine it because I think it'll improve the sound as I do that before I do my final bits of regulation. So that's kind of what I'm working on now. I'm going to do a light shaping on these. Oh, I gotta get a handle of this Zoom for you. Sorry. Good morning to Jesse Balboa. Thank you for joining. I'm going to be answering chat questions here and there like I was the other days on the half hour and the hour. So I'm going to pull the action out. We're going to start shaping hammers here on the table. So first get you a up-close view of where the hammer shape kind of is right now. Once I plug in my, we don't want to lose power here prematurely, so all right. Let's see if we can squeeze this thing on the table. Not enough room to do what we want to do. That will be just right. I've got my 80 grit Norton Pro Sand and my 150 grit, which works pretty well for these hammers. Now look at the shape on here. I'm going to zoom in a bit. And, you know, it's okay, but it's just, like I said, it's just a little clumsy. Interesting, there's a curve to the hammer hanging here. I'm guessing they did this maybe intentionally to bring out some sound. I prefer to, you know, get straight lines where possible instead of having to do a curve thing. But there's already been some semi-custom work done on this piano. We'll see, but if I hold up a hammer, there's a defined point on the top, almost too much, almost an awkward kind of ridge on the top, and I don't necessarily want that. Let's see, I'll bring the camera in where we can make sure we're looking at the same thing here. Let's bring this in here. Okay, where's my hammers? There they are. Just raise one up here. Okay, see, there's kind of a defined point on there. A little too pointy for me, and also just a little bit, like I said, a little bit awkward. So I'm going to attempt to refine that a little bit, and I'm mostly wanting the tops, the very tops, to be a consistent shape and smoothed out, and to eliminate some of this cupping that I've been noticing. Like for instance on this hammer, you see the left side is high. Okay, and I'm really close in, so we're seeing like the individual fibers, right? There's another one. Kind of cups. It's a little low in the middle. See that? I'm going to try and flatten that out, smooth that out. So this is what we're going to do. I just think it'll make a little more consistent, maybe a little fatter sound on this piano. That will be pleasing. So I've got my hammer shaping stick for Steinways, and I use it for everything, but it works for Steinways. It was made by Steinway, actually. I ordered this from their parts catalog. And I'm going to start just going at it here. I don't like my height. This isn't the ideal height sitting out on this table for me to get on top of the hammers where I can pull nice and vertical. But I have an adjustable bench here. I'll just tighten it up a bit. See if that helps us. Let's just go all the way up. That's a little better. I'm just going to get this grouping of base hammers out of my way so I don't break them. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the shoulder kind of at an angle where I want here. Just a little bit. I'm mostly just kind of perfecting the shape of what's there a little bit, just flattening it out a little bit, making it a little more square. That doesn't describe things very well, but just making it more even, more straight across. And I'm just barely maybe getting up to the kind of where the string will hit the hammer, but not quite. Not with this 80 grit. And this can be pretty quick. And there is quite a crust on the hammers I can feel as I'm shaping them. So I think by kind of getting rid of that outer crust, I think that's also going to help the tone be where we want it to be. So kind of get a profile, just rough profile on that shoulder. It's kind of angled, but preserving the just making sure that it's filed neatly. And this just really, I mean, I don't put much stock into the shape of the overall shape of the hammer. I think it mostly has to do with where the rubber meets the road, where the string hits the top of the hammer and how that's shaped and how hard or soft it is. I think that's the bigger deal with hammer shape, but again, I'm not an engineer, so there may be something I don't understand there. Really kind of just going lightly. I'm not pushing hard. Just mostly trying to be straight. You know, I don't want to take off more on the left side than the right side of the hammer. And I kind of want to bring this line up consistent so it'll be a straight strike line. Maybe taking a little roundness out of the shoulder on these in general, just making it more uniform. And to me, the person who showed me how to shape hammers in this way, which I'm very grateful for, his thinking was that if he narrows, if it's really round like this on the shoulders and he narrows that, then in future shapings it'll go a lot faster. And that's what he was noticing. And so we do that. The Steinway service manual, it has a picture of the hammer shape that they want. Has a base hammer, a middle, and a treble, I think. So in the factory, I think they look at that picture, and that's kind of the goal. At least that was when I was back in New York last, which was, a number of years ago, so it could have changed. Again, I'm not taking off a super large amount of felt. It looks like a whole lot because it fluffs up when you scrape it, but it's not that much. It's not like we're gonna change, you know, I'm not gonna reduce the life of these hammers or anything. But we will take some down from the top just to flatten that out, to get rid of that scooping. So it could affect where my blow distance was set, which I wanted to reset a little bit anyway, because I realized I got the wrong distance. I set my sample, I think, to 40 millimeters from the string, and then I forgot that, and my gauge has 41 on one side and 40 on the other, and I used 41. So it's just a little bit, not as much aftertouch as I wanted. So I need to decrease that distance here to increase aftertouch. Here I can kind of group file them on this part. Just these last 5 or so. I mean, really I could group file the whole thing if I wanted to, but I tend to like to preserve the angle of the hammer. So just kind of check the profile. And you might think, well, you're making them more pointy, but no, I'm just kind of making the shoulder angle more consistent, and then not so vertical as what they had, and not so like pear-shaped there or rounded, making it a little more directly flat on the shoulders. And then when I go over the top, it'll actually mellow out how pointy those were. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead, oh, my vacuum is plugged in. So this is kind of, I'll usually go by section when I shape, and I'll do one pass of whatever, like I was doing the front shoulders with the 80 grit. I'll just kind of clean up in between. Keep the dust down a bit. Now I'm going to go on the back side with the 80 grit, and I'm going to use my thumb as the main controller here. And group file these. Some of those I was going below the kind of 9 o'clock, 3 o'clock there, just to kind of even out the fatness of the hammers a little bit, make them a little more consistent, because these were kind of ugly. Again, I don't think that in and of itself affects the tone directly so much. That's just more craftsmanship in my mind. Okay, so I kind of group file those. So I'm getting a kind of a, you know, 45, I don't know if it's 45, whatever that angle is, kind of coming more consistent together. But now the hammers start to angle, so I need to treat them one at a time. And there's an ideal reach that I have. So with my thumb, because I need to get into this inside corner next to the other hammer, or otherwise the hammers will end up kind of slant. I won't be shaping them perpendicular to the face of the hammer here. So I got to get my thumb in there to kind of put some pressure on that right, to my right, that right side edge. And I can only reach, you know, a span of 4 hammers at max with my hand. And sometimes that's a little uncomfortable, you know, while still feeling like I have some control over how straight I'm doing it. Again, I'm bringing it right to the point of where the string's going to hit the top of the hammer, and then just a little bit further. So I'll have 2 that I shaped, and then I'll shape 2 fresh ones with one hand position. And that tends to work well for me, and then I'll lift up 2 more and just keep going that way. Although this piano feels a little far for me to reach 4, I might just do 3. And I'll put 2 up here. Maybe I'll just leave 1 that I shaped for reference. And but then when I don't have two, the reason I usually do two is it spaces me out from these that are hanging up. I'm less likely to come up and like hit those. So here I'll have to just be careful not to hit them. See, it's gonna graze them because of the angle. So maybe I will leave two. I'll just do my regular thing. But I've just found that as far as actual doing it, the hand position, that this works pretty well. But I'm only gonna span 3 at a time. So I'll be working on only one hammer before I have to change the setup there. Instead of 2, that's okay. Let's see, I should watch the clock because I do want to respond to any comments or questions on the hour, half hour. I'm 3 minutes past the hour. Let me see if there's any, if we got any comments or questions so far. Nothing, just a good morning, so we're all set. But if you do have comments or questions, feel free to chime in, and in about a half hour or so, I'll respond to those. I don't like using paddles. I think the strip makes it a lot smoother. I've only seen like one person that was really good at using a paddle. Maybe 2 people. I'm sure they're out there. But I think a paddle has its place. I mean, I've used a paddle before in different contexts, but for this, the strip just is great. I think it's more about having a good sandpaper and kind of working with the felt, making sure you're going in a direction that kind of smooths it out instead of roughs it up. And some hammers just shape horribly. Some are just terrible. I don't like to shape them. One type that has been difficult for me in the past is the Renner blue points, because it'll kind of ruffle up right as you're getting in the strike point where you want it to be smooth. That's just one that comes to mind if you're wondering like which hammers I've had trouble with that way. It's like I don't necessarily like the sound of the blue points. You know, one hammer that I have really been impressed with that I do like the sound of is the obel special press hammers. You know, in instances, I've seen Steinways rebuilt with them, and they have you can make a really good sound, and you don't have to do a lot. It usually has a really good tone that I like. I don't like their shanks, so I don't get obel shanks, just because I had one set that had friction problems. There was too much friction on the shank, and then the knuckle material, the material that they used for this, I didn't like the way it looked like it was going to maybe kind of wear out and kind of come apart a little more quickly than this stuff. So I like the Steinway shanks. I like Takiwa, they're a Japanese brand. Renner is okay, I guess. But these people say, well, don't you know you're working on Renner shanks right now? Yes, these are made by Renner, but they're made to Steinway specifications, and you know, they might be really, really similar, but I've had friction issues with some of the Renner shanks that I've seen. Now, this was in the past, so it may not be a thing at all anymore, but it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way at that point. So maybe I could work with them just fine. I don't know. So now that I talk about hammers ruffling up, these are ruffling up right here in this area for some reason. Just the way the felt lays, I think, when they press it. And you kind of just have to say like, well, that's not going to work on this hammer. But in this case, since I'm going 80 grit, I know I'll be able to kind of smooth that out when I get to the 150 here. And it's not going to be a big deal. So when I was trying to shape hammers, kind of some of the techniques that I learned early on, I mean, it was taking me 4 hours, right? Like to do a set or something like crazy like that. You know, now we're talking 45 minutes, you know, maybe an hour. Now that I've gotten pretty quick at it. It makes a big difference if I can complete the job so much faster. I'm way more likely to recommend that service to the customer probably, knowing that it's going to be less costly to them for my time and have a good result. That kind of changed my world as far as voicing, because hammer shaping is so critical, I think, to getting good voicing. All right, so now we've done the rough pass on this middle section with the 80 grit on the shoulders, both the front and the back, going up both sides. Now I'm going to vacuum. I'll show you what this kind of looks like up close once I'm done with the 80 grit, okay? So you kind of get this band on the top that hasn't been really touched, okay? And that's across the whole thing, but the shoulders have been smoothed and angled, but you get that band right where you want the strike point, okay? So that's kind of where you pull up to. And it looks all rough and ugly, but that's normal for this stage, you know, where we just had the 80 grit, and it'll smooth out a bunch. Hey, Taylor. So if you look at the profile here, the angles now are pretty equal on front to back. And it's pretty pointy, but that's gonna, like I said, that's gonna tone down once I go over the top. All right. So it's just kind of refining a little bit. So I'm gonna, so now I'll go over with 150. And this is where it starts to look better. You know, well, this is where it ends. This is where it looks great. So I'm gonna go over this shoulders again first. Just kind of smooth them out. If you see a rough spot, don't go over and over and over it trying to fix it, because then you'll end up taking more felt off on that hammer and it won't look consistent. Whereas it might get smoother just down the road. Just keep on going. Would be my advice there. These are brand new strips of sandpaper, which I think saves so much time, and it really makes the job possible, you know. You're not done with your Bostons?
No, I keep not being here.
Were you here yesterday?
Only like very briefly.
Oh, I thought, oh good, I didn't come yesterday, so Taylor probably finished.
I got behind an appointment. So.
Are you tuned in at this point, or where are you at?
Yeah, I need to think back. I'm wondering if I should like get the grand.
Tuning's not gonna mess me. I got some regulation and shaping, so
Okay.
yeah.
Listen to the beautiful.
I think we're fine because there's no room back on the other side. So Taylor's prepping some Bostons over there.
I was gonna ask if you. So I didn't know. I debated about what to do. This usually doesn't happen. But there's just
Sharps and naturals.
Yeah. So I'm like, do I just leave it? Like, is it worth addressing? I'm like, it's close enough.
Well, you could do it in a real quick way. Is there more aftertouch on the sharps or on the whites?
On the sharps.
Which is normal.
Yeah.
So you could do it in a quick way, add 2 blues just across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know if you, I'm still working for you, right? You're still getting paid for this, so do you mind just feeling this aftertouch?
You're like, may I remind you?
Because, I mean, oftentimes the Bostons have more aftertouch than this.
Yeah.
And it seems nice to have plenty of, safety there. So normally it's a bit more than this. I'm like,
Thanks for making me look smart on camera.
there is the blow, or like, that's enough.
Oh, this is plenty for the whites for me.
Yeah. It's just normally like, normally it's like, wow, there's that.
Oh, really? I wouldn't want to tell him. To me, this is like.
Yeah, maybe this is
perfect. And then the sharps. So I would see whether it's 1 blue, 2 blues, or 15 thousandths, and I've got a whole big bin right here. Just add wholesale.
Yeah,
And,
okay.
and so you say, I'm gonna ride on the consistency of whoever did it in the factory. So we're just adjusting aftertouch on that Boston, because the sharps are a little deeper, we think, than the, well, no, that is what it is, because your hammer blows, it's a straight line, right, Taylor?
It's whatever they said.
Yeah, which is a straight line, or, it's consistent.
Relatively close-ish.
So, yeah, they're close. So, like, yeah.
You could be more straight. But.
So we're just gonna add a wholesale thickness of punching under the sharps, because there's way more aftertouch on the sharps on that piano than on the naturals, and that can happen. Okay. Have to smoothen these out here. And I do see that cupping kind of continue down the shoulder, what I was noticing. So I'm going to try and flatten that out too. Of course, that part's not going to hit the string. It's just, it makes it easier to shape the rest flat when you get rid of the cupping on the shoulders too. And it looks better. It looks nicer. Okay, so just kind of going over the same thing what we did with the 80 grit, except now I'm going to start to pull up over a little bit on the strike point. I'm going to go just off the strike point is where I'm focusing my efforts, and I'm going to go across several hammers to make it really uniformly flat across them, just right before the apex of that hammer. Okay. And you don't have to be quiet or anything, Taylor. Don't worry about my sound, okay?
Yeah.
We'll deal with it here. We like the sound of tuning pianos. So it starts to get a more straight across uniform line here on the very top, especially on the angled hammers. I just do this kind of initially on the angled. It's also kind of skinnying up the strike point, making it a little more, making it shorter, where the strings will actually hit. Okay, now I'm going to just pull over the top, but I'm going to kind of do it by degrees. A little more, a little more, a little more. I'll show you from my perspective what this looks like here. So it starts to look, so it was looking like, see, we got a lot of light blow out here. Let's see. It was looking kind of like this, where you get a ridge. Then I pull over the top and it starts to look really smooth over the top of that. The profile gets a little smoothed out there right at the strike point, but it's it's still a short distance that the string will contact the hammer, but it's not so pointy as kind of what they had there, like that. Okay, so just kind of mellowing that out a bit, and I'm going to keep doing that. Oops. Have you look down on the hammers like I do, kind of. Be able to see a little more what's happening. Focus in a bit. There, that's a little better. Maybe that's a little narrow in scope, but that gives a good idea of this area that I've started to pull over the top versus where I haven't, right? All right, let's try that view. So again, by degrees, kind of combing it over. Us bald men really learn about the comb over. Again, if you see something that you don't like, don't go over and over and over it again and again and again, or otherwise it'll end up a lot lower than the rest. Just try and do your best and keep moving a little bit. I was saying that to warn myself on that. Something that looked like it wasn't going to be very pretty is getting really is working out really nice once I cut it with the 150. Okay, I've gone over the top, and then you see these like diagonal lines. We'll work on those. Now I'm going to go down. I'm going to go down the back side of the shoulder and try and flatten that out. Like so. Except the right edge should go in the angle of on the right side of the angled hammers. And I pull that edge taut so it's straight as I cut. This felt definitely wants to lay down, so I want to stay off the very top where I already hit. Just want to smooth this edge down. lightly down as a group. All this fluff down here will vacuum off. So let me show you what we kind of got now. Let's see what we have. Okay. So sorry, I'm trying to zoom out all the way. Sorry, this is so frustrating. Okay. I don't feel like I'm zoomed out all the way. All right. So it's starting to look really nice and uniform. Here's kind of what it looked like. Okay. You see kind of a point there, and they're kind of the profile. It's kind of rounded like that. Okay. Now this that we've done, it's a little flatter on the top, but still plenty pointy, and an even profile, like so. Sometimes when you round the back, it gets a little rounded on this back shoulder, but it's okay. But really consistent and smooth on the top, okay? No edginess, no ruffles. So just kind of refining it a little bit is what we're doing. I think I'm gonna do the base hammers next on this. I'm gonna bring you a little closer to see. Trying to get a good angle for you here. There we go. I think I like that spread there. So I'm going to keep these hammers down because they're just fine. Go right in this inside edge so that you don't get them angled the wrong way. These are pretty good. This is just a little bit of rubbing. This is all taking off the crust. This is 80 grit going over that front shoulder. Okay, defining this strike line a little more. Bringing it up a little bit higher maybe. Vacuum off the fluff. We'll go on the back side of this, which I like to pull these up, have a grouping of 4 or so, maybe 5. Then I can get this this edge in with the sandpaper to that angle. It's nice to have some background music for a change. Good job, Taylor. I can't play music because the copyright strike, you know.
I thought you were gonna say, "Oh, I know that song."
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. The most commonly said thing when you go in a home to tune a piano, huh?
Or if you're tuning for someone over the age of like 60.
Yeah. Or they'll say, "Well, you're not very good at that, are you? You need to learn a new song."
But you still have to laugh.
Yep.
Smile.
Laugh and smile and keep tuning.
At that, I don't know if you remember that piano. It's at like a care facility or like a retirement facility.
Like over out west.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I'm tuning there, I'll get that. I'll get that statement like 5 times while I'm there. So I'll be-
They just say, when are you going to be done? This is bothering my lunch. Yeah, when you tune the pianos in a memory care facility, you'll get it 5 times from the same person sometimes. So I pulled the shoulders both sides with 80. Just clean up here real quick. This is 150 grit, and I'll basically go Go this direction on the front side. Smooth it out even more. You know, say you were shaping hammers that were really grooved, it actually goes just as fast because that felt seems to just come off faster for whatever reason. The older felt. So this is a real fast way of shaping hammers really well. Don't know who first came up with it, but I'm glad it got passed down to me. Not going over the top yet, just smoothing out the shoulders. Okay, but now I'm going to start to creep over the top a little bit. I'm going to go just under the top of the hammer, and all these diagonal lines on the hammer, because of the angle, I'm going to turn it into a straight line. Which just basically means that right before the top, they're all flat across. And this is just light, doesn't take much. And then now I'm going to start to go over the top. I mean, this is the exact same as the last section. I'll do the same thing to all of them. The only difference is which direction you go. A hand position works well for the base versus these angled hammers. You just start to pull that in over smooth. And let's see, what time are we at? How are we doing on time? Pretty good. I did miss 8:30 though. Let me check and see if there's any questions here from y'all. Taylor distracted me. That was the problem. Okay, nope, no issues, questions, good. We'll carry on here. So my 150. Turn this over. You see a lot of really bad hammer shaping out there if you get into pianos. And the other secret to it is if you shape hammers and you don't then mate the hammers to the strings, you might as well, I don't know, it's not gonna be a great sound. It might be more powerful or bright, and the customer might think, wow, that's exciting and new. But the tone's not gonna be very consistent even. And you might have some really bright hammers, but they'll be kind of thin sounding. Now coming over the top. Okay, so that's kind of what we're looking at here. At this point it looks like this. Let's get in close. fairly smooth on the top, but I'm so sorry that I do that over and over. It's being in this app, it's not a great zoom function. So it's still kind of, there's like some bumps and ruffles kind of off this after the, where we stop coming over that edge right here. This will all vacuum off, of course. But so now I'm going to go from the back side and just kind of rub right on there and smooth it down further. Now the stick helps to get it flat across the top. So that if you're changing your strings to your hammers, or then you feel like, okay, I'm getting probably more level with the strings rather than away from level. Sometimes it helps just kind of go, short upstroke and then smooth that down. Sometimes that helps smooth it more than otherwise just pulling down. Okay, those are looking good. Just vacuum a second. Okay, now we'll move on to the treble sections. What?
Vacuum was like making the same pitch.
Oh, except just off, right? Yeah, vacuums and tuning don't always mix. Let's see, we're gonna go down a little lower for you this time. We're gonna look across the tops of these and get you in here. I'm gonna work on this. Work on this section right here, okay? And then that one too, but 80 grit. This strike line totally curves this way. I don't know if you can see that from that angle. And then the top's gonna curve. My choice here, rather than do individual hammers, which sometimes I do, I'm just gonna curve it in a group, like we're all one section, okay? That's just my choice here. We'll see what the effect is. So the strike line will also curve. Which I hope someone did intentionally. Okay, 80 on the back, 80 grit sandpaper on the back side. I'm gonna go below the shoulder a little bit, and then on the shoulder. This job is not as easy as it looks. The more practice and... Wouldn't you agree, Taylor?
You're like, I'm making it look so.
That's not what I said. I didn't say I make it look easy. I just said it's not as easy as it looks when you watch someone do it.
You do make it look like a breeze, Siren.
You say I make it look more difficult? What'd you say?
No, I said you do make it look like a breeze.
Okay, I make it look like a breeze. Yeah. Good, good. I mean, it is once you've done it 100 times or whatever, right? But you do have to pay a little more attention to what you're doing. First times, just figure things out with your fingers.
The first 40 times.
First 40 times.
Are you starting in the middle section these days, or just?
Just wherever, but I started in the tenor on this one. Okay. Got those shoulders the way I want it. See this little zone of stripe that is left? You're gonna go over the shoulders with 150. That's not really. Maybe creep up a little bit towards the top. Now I am going to creep over the top, very lightly. Just comb over. And eventually get to where I'm pulling down again on the other side, very, very gently, so that we get just over it, combs it over. I was really impressed with the Hamburg piano I did the other day. It was really, the hammer shaping was just really smooth, and you know, things were aligned, all the marks on the hammer, nice and uniform.
Careful there.
What?
Probably like Bang Yak is on this live stream right now. It's okay.
If so, hey, my goal is to up the quality of everybody. I do a better job when the camera's staring at me. We just want the truth. We want the truth. I think we're ready to handle it. I didn't say that the New York pianos were bad. I just said I was particularly impressed with the Hamburg piano. No, some of these sets come in. I think a lot of times it just depends on who has done it, how much experience they have, right, in the factory. Because sometimes they come in, it's like, boy, I don't want to touch those. They look great. A lot of times we're not shaping them because they were bad either. We're doing it because we put hardener or something on there. We want to get that crust off there. We want to just redefine the strike point a little bit. Still with the 150 now, I'm just gonna erase this line that forms on the backside. And like I said, sometimes with this technique, the backside will end up a little more rounded on the shoulder than the front. That doesn't bother me. I mean, it's nice when it's perfect, but it's just, I don't go and fix them all if it ends up that way. Let's put it that way. There. Okay. Now on the top, it's worth pointing out a couple things here. It's worth pointing out that there's not a lot of felt here between the molding and the top, right? So we don't really want to take much off of there, okay? In fact, on this top, I don't see much problem with that at all. It's great. I might just rub it a little bit to get the crust off the edges, but that's it. Because this, to me, is the indicator of the life of the hammers, how long they're going to last, is how much felt is on number 88. Okay, we'll just do this. Now maybe we'll go up high on this one. Look over the shoulder. Okay, there we go. So with 80, I want to be really cautious here. I don't want to get into them too much. Because honestly, this top section's pretty good. But there's a little bit of yellow stain, a little bit of crust. And that's from the hardener that I added, to be clear on that. I kind of have to treat these as two sections, these four hammers and then this, because they're offset. I don't want to try and curve that. I'll just keep them as kind of two different animals. It's easy to overdo it on these when the hammers are really hard. It takes the felt really off, so be very careful. And rubbing it. Okay, now the 150 on the front. Smooth. Pull over very gently on these, and don't pull down on the other side too much too soon. Just kind of start to change the angle, you know. So it's like you're going right till eventually you're going over. There we go. Then down the back side. Okay, that's it. I'll show you on the end. You can be the judge whether we removed felt or not on the top, or whether we preserved it. I think we pretty well preserved what was there. I don't think we took much down appreciably there in the distance, okay? All right, a couple more steps here. There we go. Zoom out on us here. So now the edges soak up some hardener, and we need this edge on my right side to not be really, really hard, or it'll make a bad noise as the action shifts over for the unicorn. So from the tenor on up, where there's 3 strings on up, I'm going to rub that corner with my 80 grit to rip off any hardness. Smooth that corner over. Otherwise it won't sound good. It'll be really hard to get a consistent sound with the unicorn. Kind of feel the hardener kind of grab on this grit, and then it gives way and it just cleans it off of that corner. I can feel that, the difference. Not so much a visual thing as a feel thing, and I can feel over the corner with my finger to make sure it's not too sharp. Okay, now one final step as far as the shaping goes. With our 150 grit, we may have gone deeper or higher with, you know, how much we took the hammers down on the very, very top. So I need to get down eye level with strike point and see how that is and just straighten it out as much as I can. That'll really help my regulation and everything else. So I'm going to show you what I mean. I'm going to take the camera with me here. So if we get down eye level here and look across this section, you can see that this right side slopes up a little bit, maybe. I'm being really picky. There's a little bump right here, right? This right side a little bit. And these are pretty flat across the top right here. And I don't see any, you know, this is kind of a little lower here and that right side sticks up. I don't see any major issues though. Let me see if I can get the tripod down at that level. Taylor, you don't have a lighter, do you? On you?
I do not.
Okay.
I quit smoking.
I was gonna say, I don't need a smoke. I'm just trying to bend a hammer shank. Okay. All right. Let's see if we get this just at the right eye level here on the camera. So again, that section's pretty good. This section goes down a little bit here, right? I don't want to go too crazy because I don't want to take too much felt off of here, but I want to even it a little bit. Kind of goes down right here, up right here. We want to just straighten that all across. So I'm going to work on those top two sections here. Okay. We just get down to eye level. This is where you could really see if the hammers were still cupping on top. But I think we got rid of most of that already. Most of it. There, that's as good as I can expect on those. I'll work up here. Just taper this down a little bit. Not much. Just to make a straighter line here. My hammer's kind of cupped, but I can't do anything about it without taking more felt off, and I don't want to do that. Sometimes someone before you has already kind of messed it up, and there's only so much you can do here. But usually on a new set, you can get them pretty flat across the top. Okay, that's pretty flat across. Same thing on the other sections here. We're gonna look at. Let's see if I can get that up a little higher for you to kind of see. All right, let's see if that's any good. This looks pretty good, but a lot of the hammers here, they're kind of slanting a little bit. So I'm gonna kind of drag over it, but also to my left. That'll twist the hammer a little bit and expose that high side and flatten it out a little bit. Just a trick to make those flat across the top. Okay. There we go. That's better. This is a little high right here. These couple of hammers. I'll kind of put the edge on that hammer and focus my weight a little more on there. Okay. A little high right here, same thing. And then these are leaning the other way, so I'm going to drag to the right a little bit as I pull it over. Again, it twists the hammer, exposes the high side, flattens it out. Okay. Pretty good. Pretty good here. A little high still here. You do have to take care that your eye is right level. Otherwise you'll be looking at kind of a false reading of how it looks on the very top. Okay, on to the base section, same thing. See if we can get where you can kind of see the tops of those. These aren't so bad. Pretty straight across. Okay. I think we pretty well got it. Now it's just a matter of cleaning them off. Sorry, Taylor. I'm just going to clean these off. It'll take a little bit longer
Okay.
on the back end. Oh, you're just voicing though, huh?
Yeah, I don't need to hear it. It's okay.
Well, you're not tuning. This hammer does something funny on the front that they don't normally do. If you look here, it's a little bit ruffled up right there on the top. I'm not sure what happened. Some felt behaves differently. I'm gonna just touch that up so it's smoother. Just going a little bit lower down on the shoulders as I pull these together. Pull these as one. I don't want to mess up my strike point. Look at that from the front. See what it looks like. It still looks kind of weird from this side. Yeah, that's an unusual thing I don't see, you know. Not sure which side it wants to. Huh. Interesting. This is atypical. I can't see those bumps when I look down from the top, but then when I come to the front is where I notice them. Interesting. Interesting. Well, shouldn't have too much bearing on the strike point where the hammer's actually going to hit the string. And I'm trying to see, does it lay down one way or another? It doesn't seem to have a nap to it. Maybe down. Just tuck that down a bit. Huh, interesting. Yeah. You can get different things, different sets of hammers, I guess. Just kind of didn't want to lay down before because I was pulling it up the other direction. Okay. Give those another vacuuming. And then I think we're set. I'm gonna stick this on the piano. And we're gonna work on aligning hammers now. Alright. I cannot get the zoomer. Ugh. This is a little frustrating. Okay, we're just gonna have to go with that. Okay. There we go. Not bad. Hopefully that forwards through here. It doesn't feel like it sucks the energy out of you anymore. It's a little brighter. I'm going to check the hammer alignment right now. Check the alignment on the strings here. And there's no super good way to show this on the camera right now, but basically gonna block the hammer up against the string and see how it aligns left to right. And I want consistency. I want the same amount of felt to the left of the left string on each note. Okay. Virtually the same. So I might make some little tweaks here and there, but it's pretty good. And these hammers are aligned definitely to easily miss the left string without having to shift the action over very far. I'm not going to change that on this piano. It'll provide for some really nice dynamic contrast with the player tracks that they'll be listening to from the library on the player system. Just a tweak here or there. I think there's one hammer I just want to bend over. It's twisted. I think I just want to twist it over, which means, yeah, the flat surface I put on the top will need to be redressed because it'll then be tilted if I twist the hammer a little bit. So it'll be harder to get to hit all three strings, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'll show you the channel. Everything else looks pretty good. it to the wrong side of where I want them. So where are those pianos going, Taylor?
Two schools somewhere,
To some schools.
and they're being delivered. They're being delivered. What's today? Today Thursday.
Yeah.
They're being delivered tomorrow, and then being used for graduation that night.
Oh.
So I'm like,
Okay. Wow.
I was not aware of until yesterday.
Oh shoot.
I'm like, I guess they're really putting a lot of trust in us, just like.
Yeah. So I'm going the wrong way, but for this section, I'm gonna align the hammers. I want to move them all over a little bit to the left. So I'm just gonna pull it out and do it out of the with the action out of the cavity. I'm going for even spacing or maximum spacing between each other. And it might vary a little bit over the section, and that's okay. Tighten, so I'm going to see if those line up the way I want, because the way usually the Steinways are aligned, when the action shifts over with the unicorda, it should not miss that left string when there's two, and some of them was getting a little close to the edge, so it might have had a funny sound. So we're going to check here. Here, I want to tweak it over a little more. That's more what I'm looking for. That's more what I'm looking for there. I know you can't see it, but basically if this were the hammer, here's the strings, this were the hammer surface, my knuckles, and these were the strings hit it. I want it to be a little bit over to that right, the strings to be a little bit over the right side so that when the action shifts, they still hit a good solid spot there on this left string. Okay, that's kind of what it looks like when you're looking down on it. And then the hammers with three strings are really close to this left edge, but they should all be uniform so that it'll miss that left edge. Okay? Now, oh, I was gonna twist that weird hammer. I'll show you. I'll show you which one it is. Pull the action out here. I haven't looked at questions for a little bit because there weren't any when I last looked, so we'll just carry on. Okay, I'm going to pull this out and show you that hammer. So let's see where he is. See this? It looks like this hammer's a lot closer to this one than here. And with the string, it looked that way too. But when you raise them up, you'll notice that this middle hammer is twisted to the right, and that's why. So I need to heat this shank and twist it straight up and down. I will need to probably file then on the hammer, but we'll look at that a little later if I need to. So I need to go grab a heat source. I don't have my heat gun with me. I'm going to grab a lighter and then be right back to twist that over. Meanwhile, I'll plug the camera in so we don't lose power. It'll take me 3 minutes or so to go grab that. So, in fact, I might just take 5 right now. I'll be right back in about 5 minutes. Okay. I got a lighter, so I'll be able to work on that hammer. And I could swear I've stuck a lighter in my kit several times and somehow it's always disappeared. But I'll just use one of these here. It's a taller thing like that. Just a little heat to the shank here. This flame's a lot hotter than hotter than the heat gun I use in the shop. But now it's straight up and down and evenly spaced here. So, as to whether or not I file that right side of the hammer, I'll just wait until we mate strings to determine that. And that was the worst one I saw. Everything else is passable and usable. So I'm gonna reset the blow distance a little higher where I wanted it. To 40 millimeters actually on this piano.
What?
Yep.
You're like, dude, 36 millimeters.
40. Yeah. Because I want the dip to be nice and shallow. I don't want to make it deeper. And I'm standing by that. So we're going to look through the strings and set our hammer line samples. Let me get this behind me here. Okay, let me go ahead and set those. Need a capstan wrench. And so I'm pinching my gauge, for instance, in between this F and the strings. I gotta get the damper out of the way. Pinch the gauge in there. Then I'm looking at the E and I'm adjusting the height of the hammer on the E to match the F that's pinched. have enough aftertouch with that setting. And if you'll know, I set the key dip right where it should be according to the manufacturer, which I prefer. You don't want to set it deeper in this case, and that's why I'm decreasing the blow distance so much. What time are we at? This will just be a minor adjustment, but needed. Put that there, protect the finish. And set this up here. So not a huge change here in the blow, right? But you can see the sample sticking up there, and we're going to even them out, bring it all up to that point. And that, in this case, is 40 millimeters from the strings, which is a lot less than I normally do. But we have a couple factors with this piano that will make it work well for this piano. So, and it'll allow for some settling of the parts, and the action will still work. Raise these up in between the samples. Move the tool, or move the screw with the tool, remove the tool, then give a little tap to see where you really are. For this to work out really neatly, you have to do the prerequisite adjustments that I did earlier on this piano the other day. touch-ups here and there. If you have comments or questions, feel free to put them on the chat and I'll check it on the half hour and the hour. I double checked that was accurate, and it was. So the string heights just kind of do that at that point of the piano. Check lead off and set drop. I'll fix this. I'm gonna fix the pressure on this end block over here because it's right now it's kind of rocking. Shows me that it's pushing down on there too hard. So I'm going to loosen these screws a little bit. Then there's a little conical screw that I need to run out so that this can go higher. Okay, so I'll loosen these screws. Just enough that this is free to move, this plate. Then I need an Allen wrench. I think, can't remember if it's 3.5 millimeters or 3. We'll find out here soon enough. Must be 3. Okay, so I've got my 3 millimeter wrench. I'm going to turn this conical screw out, and I'll zoom in so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, right here is this conical screw. When I run that in, it forces that up, right? And it forces this plate down. We need to reset it so that we can have less pressure on the plate. So I'm running this screw back quite a bit. See the pointy parts now recessed. Now I'm going to push this plate up a little bit higher, okay? Like so, and I'm going to see how it fits now on the action part right here. Let's see if it... There, now the cheek block doesn't rock, but I need to eliminate any knock here. Okay. It almost eliminates it already. In fact, I think I want to go further up, actually, further up with the adjustment. Push that plate up even more. So I'll run this screw back a little more. So I'm at the, now I can't go any more, right? I can't go any higher at this point. But it doesn't knock. And if I push it down more, if I set that adjustment more, where it's pushing down on here harder, it'll make this start to knock possibly. So I'm gonna leave it here. I'm just gonna retighten these screws. Okay. That will help the action sit where it needs to a little better. I'm going to go ahead and tighten those down. Just to kind of test things here, the friction on the action. Excuse me. And in the previous, when I looked at this piano previously the other day, when I pushed the left pedal, this motion was really, there was a lot of friction on the system. Now it feels just free and great. That was the issue. Let's check the bass side. Whoops, that fell down. Okay. So I'm looking to see if this pushes down on here, and it does, but I think it possibly pushes too hard, because when I hold it down and try and operate the left pedal, there's a lot of friction on the system again. So do the same thing. We'll loosen these 2 silver screws, and we'll run this little screw that's hidden from the front out. So here I go, running it out, just so that this plate can go upwards as far as it can go. Let's see if that works. There's a little knock there, but there's not the same friction on the action. So now I want to run this screw in just a little bit at a time until I can eliminate that knock. So I'll do it from this position here. So I get a knock here, but not here. I need to take a little material off of this. So we'll do that. And where do I need to take it off? Actually, you know what? I'm gonna rethink that. Let me tighten this screw and just get a better, more accurate check on it, what is happening here. So there's no knock. Oh, you know, I'm not getting a knock, but this is floating. The wood there is floating a little bit off the key bed. I can tell because I can push it down and I see movement here. So if I hit really hard, I get a knock. But here, no knock. Excuse me just 1 second, I'll take a call. Be right back. Okay, and we're back. So yeah, if I hit really hard, I get a knock, and so far no knock here, which is good. We don't, because sometimes when you push this so far down, sometimes there's a pivot point, and it'll prop up the middle. So we're gonna run this. We're gonna run that screw in just a little bit further, and pretty soon you'll hear a knock because it'll be closer to the wood, but then it'll go away. There's that knock. So I'm turning it where it just goes away. Right there. And it didn't introduce a knock, did not introduce a knock over here either. So that's great. Now I'm gonna check the pedal. It's putting some pressure on it for sure, but not so much that it won't return well. So it's operating much smoother. I think, and the more this piano is played, it'll operate even smoother. So that's good. Let me check that we're not floating. See, I push down, this doesn't go anywhere. And I have the action secured on both ends. And we're good. So we'll carry on. So the next thing I want to do is set lead off. Check it. So I need a let off tool for that, which is here. And the way I like to check let off is by touch and by sound and touch. Okay. So I'm going to push the key just to the shelf. I'm going to press the sustain pedal to get the dampers out of my way. Otherwise, there's parts resting on the action, just gets in the way. I'm going to push to the shelf and push through. I have to push very hard to get it to hit that first string, which is not awful, but I'm going to move it a little closer. Okay. Same thing here with that one was already hitting. Move this one a little closer. So I'm just moving let off a little in general, making small adjustments to move a little closer to the string. You know, what do we do to this piano? We shape the hammers. That maybe took a little bit off the top, and plus, you know, it might have changed a little bit, or might have been even set a little further away. If you had to err on one side or the other, it's better to err on the side of let off being just a little bit too far away. And I'm not talking excessive, just a little bit. Because then the mechanism will still work well. And to be honest, when let off is set just right, the main thing you really gain is just control and very soft playing. This means that you can play really soft without a misfire. Now the strings get a little bit skinnier, especially after the bass strings, right? So I tend to set this from here on up a little closer than I did the bass section. And sometimes I'll push it through the shelf soft enough where I don't get it to hit the string, and then just enough to get it to hit the string to kind of tell how close I am. So it's kind of like too weak, too slow, and then a harder push, and that helps me zero in on where I want it. And you know, if you confirm visually back and forth a couple times practicing this method, you can get a handle on what it's supposed to feel like to be able to do this. And then you don't have to crane your neck setting lead off. So you probably can't even hear it from the camera, but I can hear when this just taps the string. I can kind of feel it. Now we're going to set drop. So let off and drop are kind of companions as far as the order of where you set things. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? After I adjusted this where I wanted it, I didn't tighten the screws, so I do need to do that. Otherwise that plate adjustment won't hold, and it'll have a clip to it probably too. But that should still be where we adjusted it. Now, drop. The target setting for this on a Steinway is going to be 32nd of an inch, I believe. I kind of like to maybe not make it that small, just depending on the piano. But so that's actually about right. But so if there's too much drop, the action will feel kind of slow. It'll feel a little heavier. A little more resistance to it. But I wouldn't ever make more drop. Well, I shouldn't say ever, but usually wouldn't make more drop if I say, oh, this action's too light, I want more resistance, you know. But who knows, I might in a certain setting. So these are all really close, which I would expect. We just changed lead off tiny bits where we changed it. So this, the more I turn this screw up, what happens is it delays the point where we start to push against the repetition spring. So if I run drop down, it hits that repetition lever and starts to load the spring sooner in the keystroke. And so you're going to feel the resistance of that spring being loaded against the key. Okay, and the later it is, you're going to feel that resistance less. So it makes the action feel smoother and lighter, faster, all those things. Okay. Just decreasing it a bit. See what time it is here. It is, oh, I think I missed the 10 o'clock. Let me check, see if there's any chat questions here. All right. So here we have okay, Paul B asks, are there any issues with purchasing a used Spirio with getting control of the account to control the player? Does Steinway restrict those resales at all? Not that I'm aware of. I imagine all we would have to do is contact support and get a new ID number issued to the new user. That came up just the other day with a friend of mine. I'll ask him and see if there was any hiccup, but I think all went smoothly that way. And then Jeffrey Boyle says hello. Hi, Jeffrey. Thanks for joining. But that's a good question on the Spirio. In fact, I'll call my friend right now and ask. Might as well before I forget, right? And I'll report to you here.
He might be gone.
Well, he took his phone with him.
Oh. What's the time difference?
Where'd he go? Hawaii?
Korea.
Korea?
Yeah.
I didn't know he was going to Korea. Okay, I may not reach him if he's in Korea. We'll see.
Are you the one doing the painting? Yeah, painting. Oh, right. Yeah, cool. Thank you. Yeah, man.
You know what I can also, I can't reach him, but I will just contact support. I'll just send him a quick text. See what they say here. Okay, I just texted them. We'll see what they say here in a sec. And I'll get an answer to your question. That was a good question. Meanwhile, we'll keep setting drop here.
Oh, I don't know of one in particular that was. You want a coffee? Oh, no, I'm doing okay. Thank you. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. These are all really close, like I was saying. Just kind of checking them, touching up on them. So even changing drop a little bit can just make a better feel of the action. It's just like a kind of a feeling, you know. If this were a Yamaha, I might set a little more drop. And I can't tell you why, other than I don't know what their spec is for Yamaha, but I watched a guy from Yamaha come prep some pianos at the university a while ago, and he set them with a little more drop. So I thought, okay, I'll do that. I think their main thing though is just that it starts to let off. I can tell that the let off on this. Speaking of let off, I can tell sometimes when I'm setting drop if the let off is higher on one note compared to the rest of the area, so I can adjust things as I'm setting drop without having to have it in the piano, you know. I think it was that one. And it'll be more consistent from note to note. And then I'll set drop accordingly. Now I haven't set my final dip on my sharps yet, and so there's a little more aftertouch maybe on the sharps than the white keys. So they might look a little different the way they drop right now. If there's more aftertouch after it escapes and you push up, there's like a second rise. The more aftertouch there is, the more rise there is, right? Because the key is still pushing things up a little bit. So anyway, that's how you can kind of that's another indicator of how much aftertouch there is on an action, of how much second rise there might be after it drops. But I can still look at the distance that it actually drops and try and set that consistent, which is what I'm doing in this case. So now we've gotten kind of all the different aspects of regulation nailed down except for that sharp dip. So now I can really hone into making the aftertouch even from note to note by just playing the key and adding punchings to the sharps as needed, just to match the rest. Okay, you know, and then the other thing I guess I didn't check yet was checking but I'm not going to do that again until I finish setting how far the black keys go down, and the white keys for that matter, because the farther the key goes down, the higher the back check goes up. It'll check higher, closer to the strings, and the reverse. So we need to kind of set that. Okay, this let us way low on this note, so I can run that up and compare it to its neighbor here. Maybe a little bit far. Then adjust the drop accordingly. There, now those match a little better. Same thing here, it's a little low. So you can refine even further what you did, you know, from feeling things. Okay. We're going to call that set, and then we're going to feel, I'm going to get out my punchings and my forceps and feel how each key feels as I'm going to depress the pedal, get the dampers out of the equation. Just gently push the key to the shelf and then push through and see how much of a step there is. Some people use 2 fingers to kind of really perceive that. Okay, and right now there's going to be less on the naturals than on the sharps, so we're going to even all that out. And if I find a natural that feels a little shallow to me, not quite enough of a step, it just feels like if you're swinging a bat, just not enough follow through, you know, like you're kind of getting stopped, then I'll take a punching out. After shaping those hammers, the tone came out a lot. So it's kind of harsh right now, but we'll solve that in a hurry once we get needling hammers. It won't take too much to solve that. So, okay. No answer yet on the Spirio question, but I will let you know as soon as I. Okay, I'm going to put a pile of punchings just accessible here for me. And I already know I want to take one out of middle C, which was my sample, but you know, after setting everything, it's alright, I'm allowed to change my mind, right? So I'm just going to play the keys down here. And I'd rather err on the side of a little deeper than a little shallower at this point. Okay, so I'm going to add, the sharp feels deeper, like a bigger step, so I'm going to add a couple blues and see if that's overkill. That was actually a bit much, so maybe 1 blue is all it needed. Maybe a blue and a green. We'll get out a green. Use 2 fingers to really test. This is weird. I want to add another green, but when I put 2 blues in, it felt too shallow, and I'm basically at the same thickness again. So we'll see.
By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
Does it make sense? Well, I mean, that cloth punching might have settled in a different spot or something is what we probably ended up with. So, all right, same thing. I'm going to try 2 blues on an A flat. That's good. Same thing. So I'll just carry on like this until everything feels really consistent and even in that manner when I'm playing the key that way. Take one out of that C. Now we already really meticulously set the whites, but again, my gauge, it indexes off its neighbors, so you can have slight variations still, and so this is the kind of the final check, just by feel. Dropped on all the punchings. Need to fish them out here. That can happen. More there. I think I got them all. Reset that here. Add a couple blues. If you're not sure on whether or not you need to add more punchings on to make the same feel, just keep adding them until it definitely feels too shallow. There will come a point where you're like, okay, that's definitely more shallow than in aftertouch than the notes around it, and you'd be like, okay, I just need to step back a little bit from there. There are ways of getting closer too. I've done it on the other piano. I've shown it. You know, I can set this dip on the blacks in a way that gets me maybe a little closer, but you still want to check it like this in the end. So I don't know how long the hammer shaping took me this morning, but certainly wasn't, 4 or 5 hours, which is what, when I first started out, it seemed like I wanted a lot for if I was billing for a hammer shaping job, which was terrible, and of course I did a much worse job of it. let's see if there's any further questions on the chat. Let me stick this in before I forget where I am. Actually, I'll just go all the way to the end here while we're at it. These are actually good. Okay. That's the make fewer mistakes regulation adjustment right there. Just that dip really consistently. Okay. Here's a question. Kyle Thompson. So I'll show my face. All right, face to face. Kyle Thompson, what's your experience with Spirio versus other player systems like QRS and Disclavir? Do you have any preferences for one or the other? Okay, Disclavir has been, was the leading thing, and their technology is just fabulous. QRS is great, but in general, I like the systems that are engineered to be installed in the piano in the factory the best, the absolute best. I love Spirio. I mean, they make improvements and refinements as they go, and I like that, all those things, But so probably Disclavir and Spirio are my favorite. Spirio over Disclavir only because the library the piano sound is better, and then the library is so easy to access, and you don't have to have any kind of a subscription or anything. It's just on the iPad, and when you log into the app, and they're always doing new recordings, new features, and they're pumping them out every month. And so when I go into homes and I ask, "Oh, do you ever use the player?" The only one where people say, "Oh, all the time, consistently," is a Spirio. A lot of times, like with the others, they're outdated because the media or the controller or whatnot, and in the QRS systems, the piano disc, after a lot of people, they just stop using them. I think it's because their subscription, they're not sure how to get back into it, or the controller breaks if it's an older one. So that's been my experience. And then Kyle has another question. That's a great endorsement. Yeah. Well, I do. I love Spirio. I don't mind working on them. It's not just because they're, but it's like the best pianists and pianos making recordings for it. It's really cool. Okay, separate question from Kyle Thompson. What's the longevity look like? I'm opted for not getting one, mostly because I'm worried about the tech getting old quickly while the piano itself is pretty timeless. Well, right now, the benefit on the Spirio is that any tech can be upgraded pretty easily because the controller is an app, an iOS app through an iPad. So, what other technologies do we rely on through that same channel? A lot, right? So our iOS apps going anywhere? If they are, then it'd probably be, it's convertible. Whereas some of the older things had a media controller mounted onto the unit, right? The hardware, if you get a record system, the operating system that runs on the piano itself is, I believe, Linux. So is that going anywhere? I doubt it. And it's updatable through, right? You can do updates through Wi-Fi connection or wired connection through the internet, as they do firmware updates. So it's pretty good, Yeah, Kyle says those mounted media controllers definitely scared me. Seeing the CD drives beneath the keyboard, for example. Yeah, and that's why a lot of people don't use those anymore, because it was a physical media. Now that if your information's just stored with your login and it's connected to the app, you can access it that way. It's pretty cool. So I'm a big fan of them. I definitely do endorse the Spirios. Kyle says, I suppose for Spirio mostly being streamed, that makes a lot more sense. There is a lot of streaming. I mean, they're doing streamed concerts with Spirio, but there's a huge library of recordings that are accessible once you just log in to the app, and it'll say, for instance, what's new in August of 2024 or whatever. You know, it'll say August highlights, and they've had new recordings and they release them. Or they'll say, this is a special tribute to the Beatles or to whatever. They'll have a bunch of recordings that pianists have done on the Beatles. Not every pianist that records for Spirio do I love, but a lot of them are really good, and a lot of them are really good at understanding how their performance is going to translate when it comes through that medium of the player piano. And so, you know, those artists I particularly enjoy, but it's a good system. It is. And I love how I don't perceive it as a pianist. It's two separate levers. My pedals, when I play acoustically, are my pedals. The player has its own levers that it operates with solenoids, so you're not having to adjust one to compromise the other so much. So it's really well engineered. Their support is amazing. I mean, I haven't heard back from on that question this morning, but usually I'll hear back within 5 minutes when I send a text or an email during business hours. So it's pretty impeccable. So good question. We'll move on here. Let's see. So I've got these on the bass all set. Now we're going to. Now the sound doesn't sound very good because it got built up with hardener and it's like, whoa, way over the top, ugly, but we'll make that sound like really great. C sharp here. Yeah, so for the most part, I'm doing the same thing to all the sharps, just adding 20 thousandths under them. We already added 15 thousandths, I think. It was either 15 or 35, I can't remember which. Kind of wholesale the other day. I'm going to take one out of the E, just to give a little more cushy room on that. You know, what other tool or instrument, like, are we perceiving 10, 20, 5 thousandths difference of 5 thousandths of an inch difference, you know, like the thickness just of a paper. It's pretty amazing to me how it can affect things. Now, pianists are so used to adjusting to things. It's not like they're going to go to a piano and say, the dip is really uneven on this. Not most of the time. But when you draw attention to it and you change something, you have them try it after the change, they can notice the difference. I can turn these glide bolts just a little bit and just change, which changes the key dip just a tiny bit, and it's noticeable. So this is where you account for, let's say, okay, so let's say one key is a tiny bit lower than the others. than its neighbor. This is where you account for that difference without having to re-level the keys necessarily. You're within tolerance, it looks good, and then you just make a change here to account for that. One blue there. Take a little something out of that. An action doesn't necessarily feel bad, like feel unacceptable when the aftertouch isn't quite enough, but you are walking a line there and might be too close to things not clearing very well and introducing some double striking or bobbling or just an unsettled feel. Oh boy, I need a lot of punchings under that one. One more blue. Take one out of the A. Take that out.
I could just grab a handful. Sorry, I have,
Oh yeah, what do you want,
I have
blues?
some in my car, but
Greens?
I'll just
What?
grab them.
Oh, is that enough, or do you want a bunch more?
I shouldn't need. Hopefully, I won't need. Hopefully, I won't need.
Okay. When the dip is really consistent, it makes it easier to voice it even from note to note. And no, I can't explain why, but it does. Take one out of that C.
Is it pointing the?
Camera? What's wrong?
What you see here is
Oh,
what
I
you're
never
seeing, or-
flipped my
Yeah, I was gonna say,
camera.
I was like, hold on, I'm seeing
Sorry,
my- I
folks.
was like, I'm seeing myself. Right
I
now.
can't believe you've been watching this long. Sorry.
You're like, what's
I had
wrong?
my camera pointed the
Like,
wrong
what's going on
way.
with that wall?
Thanks, Taylor. Taylor saved the stream. I flipped it around to answer questions. I forgot to flip it back. Sorry, everyone. Okay. I hope if there's one thing I can do, it's to laugh at myself. blue here. Okay, we're almost done with the dip, and then that means we're done with basically almost everything except checking, as far as the regulation goes anyway. Then we'll get to voicing it. I mean, we've been voicing it all along too, but we'll really start to refine things. I've heard people say things before like, oh, the regulation's all off, there's no shelf at all, or there's too much of a shelf or whatever. And I'm like, when you're playing the piano, you don't feel that shelf. I mean, really, you don't feel it like, oh, there's that shelf. It doesn't work that way. We only use this shelf in slow mo to kind of help set the overall resistance and timing of the action. And honestly, a piano will play, there's kind of a range of parameters you could tweak and still the piano will play just fine. So I don't ever say like, wow, well I don't take a gauge and say, well, this blow is 40 and it should be 45, so it's wrong. That's incorrect. That's an incorrect way of approaching it. It's got to work, right? So if it works, it's right. Now, it would take more care initially setting up a piano that it's set up to the right specifications as much as is allowable. But I'm certainly willing to play around with it in different ways, especially in a custom setting. If you have a pianist that says, I'm trying to do this and I can't do it on my piano, or I have this injury and when I play my piano it's too heavy and so it's hurting this way, then I'm happy to look at things and tweak things a little differently, hopefully to make it a better situation for that particular piano or customer. Not too much there. Shot my cloth punching underneath there, so we gotta fish it out. He's gonna be somewhere. Come out here. Just scoot this forward, maybe. Oh, he's still on the rail. I don't know what happened to him. Let's take a look. There he is. Got it. Okay. That goes with this, and I don't even remember what we were doing with it, but I'll stick 2 blue punchings in it. Let's see if that's what we're doing mostly. Let's see if that's right. Yeah, that was right. One under that. I think it's useful though to kind of have in your mind, if I make this change, or you know, if something in this adjustment changes because of environment or shipping or whatever, will the piano still play? You know, is it game over or not? Just kind of have a mental log of those things that are really detrimental to making it work versus those that are just to try and enhance a little bit of control or whatnot. That way you'll prioritize correctly. I'm just gonna put a couple drops of paraloid up there. Because it's a nice sound. You're not gonna perceive that just listening to the sound on the recording, probably. I wouldn't think. But I'm having to hit it really hard to match the volume of the other keys, the rest of the piano, so it doesn't quite match. Let me grab my little paraloid bottle. I'm just kind of the last, it was these notes that are kind of, that they curved in. Last 4 or 5 notes. Right about there. I said 4 or 5, I did 7. I meant 7, I guess. Okay. So, oh, well, we need the action out. We're gonna look at the checking. Just kind of set that. So let me see. Make sure our camera's at a good spot for checking here. Okay, good. Thanks for joining, everyone. If you have a question, throw it up real quick on the chat. I'll check here in a second and respond to it. All right, I'm looking at where the tail actually hits on the back check, and it's kind of higher. This is in just the right spot where I want to, where I know it's going to check well. So rather than look at a specific distance from the strings, that's what I'm looking at more. And it might behave a little differently in the piano than when I have it out on my lap here, but so I'm just going to make sure these are even, and I would guess that they would be, because the dip was consistent before and then we changed it. And so even though we did the sharps after, that should be really consistent, and it is. That's one thing I can't figure out how they do such a good job in the factory is the checking and how consistent it seems. I don't feel like I'm up to that level yet of setting it. I don't know. Just seems that way.
They just have this one guy there. That's all he
This
does.
is
That's his only
the
job.
checking master, factory checking master. Yeah. And he's been doing it for 40 years or something.
Yeah.
No, I feel like I can do a pretty good job, but
Or sometimes I wonder if they set it with the record rail on.
oh, I've done that. Yeah, that's helpful. But even before there were Spirios,
Yeah,
it was a thing to me. Okay. So again, rather than looking at a specific height to the strings, although that will be the result of getting it even and setting it where I want, I look at the tail. And it needs to check really well. The piano will repeat well if it checks well. And you'll also get a minimum of double striking and things. It'll mitigate against that. So really not much to adjust here. No major adjustment going on. Just kind of picking at the line, evening it out a bit. These springs I did set pretty strong. That's okay. I think the Spirio will play better on some of the harder pieces with the springs a little bit stronger. The back check wires on Steinways are pretty thick. It takes a lot of force to actually bend them. I was noticing on the Yamaha the other day they bent really easy, but which also means they come out of adjustment a little easier too. The ones that are weaker. Okay, let's see. I heard a chime on my phone. Let's see if that's an answer on the Spirio question. Okay, so when you buy a used Spirio, there is a price tag to get an account and have access to the library to get a new customer ID if you buy a used Spirio. You basically contact Spirio support through email and pay an activation fee of $1,500. So probably if someone was selling a Spirio and really wanted to move it, they would probably just cover that fee themselves. But I think it's about $1,500, she says, and then you get an ID, and from there on you're good to go. So, but they're not guarding it other than that. Okay. So. So I don't know if I think it was Kyle that asked that question. I don't know if Kyle's still on, but that's how it's handled. Taylor over there is going to prep 2 pianos in the time it takes us to half prep 1. Okay, now just the base section to check over here. Get it to check over because we're doing checking. Get it? Okay. Doesn't look like there's any new questions on the chat, so I'll keep going. See this tail, this is hitting lower, and it's not going to check as well. I'm going to move this up. Still doesn't drag, so that's where I'm going to check this. So I am going to raise these to check higher. So in general, just raising and checking on the base a bit. That'll give a consistent feel to the action when the checking's all similar. Can feel a little clunky if it's too low. Can feel a little too light almost if it's too high. Too high though is hard to come by. Usually about the highest you can get it to check well is about the right spot. Okay, just about there. That's pretty good. Our springs are good for what we want. Go ahead and set this in. Actually, I think I saw some punchings fall out into the action cavity I want to grab right now. Before it's too late. So basically all the regulation steps are done on this now. Okay, so we're gonna check to make sure it plays well. Sorry Taylor, just a quick check. That's really good. Now we're at 11 o'clock here. We're going to mark the hammers. We're going to mark where they hit the strings. I'm going to go ahead and tighten the cheek box for that. We're going to start working on getting this piano to sound really good. Let me grab some carbon paper. So the carbon paper in the folder will help us to put ink on the string, and then we'll play and transfer that ink to the hammer. But Taylor's tuning, he's got a job to do. I haven't eaten breakfast, so I'm going to cut the stream, and go grab something to eat and be back in about a half hour or so and carry on with this process. Let Taylor get a little further, and because we all got a job to do here. These pianos both have to go out soon, so. And yep, so I will introduce the stream again just on the same number, 25D. I guess this is 4 sessions already, so. Anyway, we'll catch you. Let me check if there's questions here. Let's see. Oh, there is some questions here from Kyle. So Kyle says, you don't perceive a difference in the keys either with the player system? No, because the part that lifts the key for the player is either not touching or just touching, and it doesn't need to be regulated any differently. FYI, your camera is still flipped. Thank you for that. Yeah, I'm a little slow in that. And then I have a question from Levant Inlu. Hello, how do you Varituner adjust overpull? Okay, this question was posed before. Let me just demo it really quick, okay, for you. It's really easy on the Varituner. You don't need to do anything really. Let me get my other phone out. So let me open this up here and make sure I'm filming. All right, Varituner here, new tuning. Okay, so we're gonna hit save. Now, it's automatically under course tuning. Now here we're gonna tap what percentage we want. Okay, let's say we want the greatest percentage. And Taylor's playing a note that's pretty in tune. Hey Taylor, can I one quick second try something? Yeah, sorry. Okay, so let's play a different note. There, so that note was 6 cents flat, and now it's calculating a target that's 2 cents sharp above 0. So that's how you set the overpull, just like that. And it just listens to each note and calculates its own target. Sorry, let me get an actual note here. Like so. So it's a piece of cake, and then you would go up here and then you would hit fine tuning, and then the overpull goes away and you carry on. Thanks for that question. Hopefully that answers it for Levant, and we'll sign off. Thanks a lot, guys. See you in about 30-45 minutes.